All right, welcome everybody. Let's do this. So lesson 8, special role of 0 in factoring. For the opening exercise, what I'd like you to do is factor this polynomial. And over here, if you remember your Algebra 1 skills, try and solve for x. All right. Now, how do we factor this one? Remember, the rules always stay the same when your a value over here, right? When your a value is 1, we're allowed to say what two numbers, when you multiply them, give you 6, but when you add them, give you 5. So what are the two numbers? It would be 2 and 3, because 2 times 3 is 6, and 2 plus 3 is 5. So how does this factor? It just factors as x plus 2 times x plus 3. Okay? Easy peasy. Now let's look at the next one. Here, what this is saying is, how do I solve for x over here? And the real question you're asking is, what value of x will make the entire polynomial equation equal to 0, right? For example, like let's say it's saying that like if I plug in a number for x, how do I make the whole thing equal to 0? For example, like let's say if I use x equals 1. If I plug in x equals 1 into this, will it make the whole thing equal to 0? Well, let's take a look. And don't forget that every time you substitute an x value, we always use parentheses. So what am I talking about over here? Like if I'm going to use 1, anytime I see an x, I put parentheses, right? Squared plus 5, right? Anywhere I see the x, I put the parentheses. But now what am I going to substitute in? I'm going to substitute that 1. And the question is, does this make it equal to 0 when I substitute 1? So 1 plus 5 plus 6, this will definitely not be 0, right? So x equals 1 doesn't make the whole thing equal to 0. But you have to understand that there are an infinite amount of numbers, and keep plugging in is not going to help us solve this. So what is the trick? The same thing we did over here, where we factored this, let's factor this the same way here. So let's imagine if I have x plus 2 times x plus 3 equals 0. Now, what you're allowed to use is this property back in Algebra 1. And it says if a, b equals 0, then what is this saying? This is saying that imagine if you have two numbers and you multiply them, they give you 0. What has to happen? One of them has to be 0. So a is equal to 0, b is equal to 0, or a and b equals 0. So the trick you're allowed to use over here is you're allowed to take this x plus 2, right? You say x plus 2 equals 0. X plus 3 equals 0, right? And then how do I solve for x over here? All I need to do is just, let's just, minus 2, minus 2, minus 3, minus 3. And over here, now I have x equals negative 2 and x equals negative 3, okay? But let's not forget, what do these two values represent, right? What does this x equals negative 2 represent? It represents that if I take this negative 2 and plug it in here, it better give me 0. So let's see. If I have x squared plus 5x plus 6 equals 0, check x equals negative 2, right? Let's substitute negative 2 in here to see if we get 0. So let's take a look. This is parentheses, parentheses, plus 5, parentheses, negative 2, plus 6, negative 2, and square, right? Equals 0. Now what is negative 2 squared? Remember, negative 2 squared is just equal to, what do? We take two of these, so it's negative 2 times negative 2. And that's just equal to a negative times a negative is a positive. 2 times 2 is 4. So this is 4 minus 10 plus 6. Does this equal 0? Question mark. And it does, because 4 minus 10 is negative 6. Negative 6 plus 6. This does equal 0, and check. So we solved that original question of, oh wait, no, that's not the question, my bad. This was the question. It says, for what value of x makes the entire polynomial equal to 0, one of the answers was x equals -2. What I want you to do is, on your own, check that x equals -3 also makes this whole entire thing equal to 0. All right? So first part seems not too bad, but the next important question we need to ask ourselves is this one over here. And what I'd like you to do is please take a second, pause the video, and write this down. It is, what is the connection between the solutions, right? So these are the solutions over here, the solutions of the equation and the graph of the function. So to be able to graph this function for now, what I want you to do is make sure you have a calculator. And if you don't have this calculator, it's okay. The other calculators will perform the same way. So what I want you to do is take your calculator, and what we're going to do is we're going to work on some calculator skills on how to graph something. So let's take a look over here. Let me zoom out a little bit. And the goal is we're going to graph this oh, wait, the light is very bad. Okie dokie, is that better? Let's see, hold on. Let me fix the lighting. My bad. Fix the lighting here. And okay, that looks a little better. So we want to plug this into the calculator. Oh man, the light's really bad. Okay, that's better. No, that's bad. Let me shut this off. And that's still bad. What about here? Okay, that works. Hold on, let me do this. Okie dokie. So how do I reset the calculator? Let's take a look at this. How would I reset the calculator? What I want you to do is you take your calculator, and the first button you're going to hit is second. So it's this one right here. You hit second. And then what you're going to do is you're going to go to the plus symbol over here and hit plus. Okay? And then what's the next command you're going to use? You're going to hit 7. Okay, so 7 is over here. You hit enter. Then you hit all RAM, enter, reset, enter. And then, okay, now it says RAM clear. So now let's plug in this polynomial into the calculator. So you just go to y equals, and let me try and zoom in. Is that a little better? Okay. Now let's plug in this function. So how do you put in an x? You use this symbol over here. Okay, so x. Man, the lighting is really bad, so I'm trying to fix that. And then put in the square plus 5x plus 6. Okay? And then what you do, oh wait, whoops. Hold on, wait. So x squared plus 5x plus 6. Okay, great. Now you should have this in your calculator. And now what you could do is you could just hit this graph button, and let's see. And let's not forget what our original question is what is the connection between the solutions of the equation and the graph of the function? So what do these solutions mean with respect to the graph? If you notice over here, if I were to zoom in or maybe draw a little sketch over here, where does the graph intersect the x-axis? Notice that if this is -1, this is -2, and this is -3, do you see how the graph intersects at those 2 points of -2 and -3 over here? And that's it. Basically, the solutions of the polynomial represent the x-intercepts of the graph. Okay, so let me write that down real quick. So please have this in your notes, that over here, and pause the video after I write this down. So the solutions represent where the graph intersects the x-axis. Okay, smiley face. Not too bad, right? If you want, you could try this one on your own. Try this one on your own. So like x squared plus 7x plus 12 equals 0. What I want you to do is same thing. Just like we did here, I want you to find the solutions, and then what does the graph of this look like? And you could use the calculator if you want, right? Take your time. But let's say you want to see how the solution is done. I'm going to do it really, really fast. But what two numbers when you multiply give you 12, but when you add give you 7? It's x plus 4, x plus 3 equals 0. So then what do? You say x plus 4 equals 0. X plus 3 equals 0. So you do minus 4, x equals negative 4. Minus 3, x equals minus 3. And what do these two values represent? They have to represent where the graph intersects the x-axis. So if this is like negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, it has to hit these 2 points over here of negative 3 and negative 4. Okay? I knew I drew that really small, but I hope you get the idea. All right. What I want you to do is try and do the last part over here, where it says find all the solutions that make f of x equal to 0. All right, pause the video and try and do this. But basically all you're doing is, you just draw your little lines, right? Okay, so now you just say x plus 1 equals 0. X minus 1 equals 0. X plus 2 equals 0. X minus 3 equals 0. And then you see x equals negative 1. X equals 1. X equals negative 2. And x equals 3. Okay? And the last thing I want you to do is, what has to happen? What is the connection between these solutions and the graph of this? What I want you to do is take your calculator and plug this in, okay? Plug this in and see what happens, okay? What has to happen is it has to hit these points, and you're gonna see that it does hit these points. So use the calculator to see for yourself. Okay, I hope this video helped. I'll see you.